Web3 and AI made simple. Hosted by yours truly, Riza Utile.
Welcome back to Web3 and AI Made Simple. And Ian is here with me again. Ian, I love this topic because it's one of those things that, changing right under our noses, and most people haven't noticed. The way we prove who we are online, our digital identity is going through a complete transformation. And it connects beautifully to everything we've talked about this season about ownership, control, security, and who's really in charge of your digital life. By the end of today, our listeners are going to understand the future of identity better than most people they know. And, the best part is genuinely goodness. This is one of the areas where the future is clearly better than the present. So, Ian, let's be honest about the present first. Why are passwords actually such a bad system? Because we all use them, so we assume they're fine.
Passwords, security. So there are two problems with security systems as they are today. So the first is traditional passwords. So passwords, they tried to complicate themselves for protection by making us use special characters, capitalization, lowercase, numbers. Then it became you had to have 8 characters, then 12. So the reality for the old password system is that a lot of different advanced technologies could potentially break these. Quantum would be able to break any password in a matter of seconds, supposedly. So that whole password system is this whole industry of trying to protect ourselves that as it gets bigger and bigger and more complicated, the technologies that would interfere with it have become more aggressive and more dangerous. The other password system is the whole thing around cryptocurrency, right? You have 12 phrases or 24 phrases or words, and as long as you have those written on a piece of paper in a safe or carved into a piece of stone and concreted into your patio or something, you can get access. But then if you lose them, they're gone. Or if somebody else gets their hands on them, then obviously you're no longer protected. So we have two password systems. The password where you have to have something written down and you have to keep it safe and away from anybody else, but still be able to get access to it. There's lots of risk around that. And then the traditional password system with lots of risks around that as well. So there's definitely risks involved with our current system of security, passwords, and protections.
All right. So the password system asks every single human being to be a security expert, right? So to create and protect dozens of unique secret codes, and of course we can't. So we cut corners, and that's exactly where the danger comes in. So Ian, can you please tell us what's actually replacing it in simple terms?
I don't know that anything has replaced our broken password system yet. I know that one of the big pushes was to get people to sign in instead of with the email and password or cell phone number and password. They started to have people sign in using Google or Facebook, thinking, well, you trust Google, you trust Facebook, just let Google and Facebook be your login for everything. And so that was one approach. There are other approaches like two-factor authentication. Let's make people use Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator. That way, when they log in, they also have to go to their Authenticator, a second app, and get a password that changes every 10 seconds. And so there's things around authentication. When you log in with your username and password, your email and password, let's also text you. Let's send a text message to you, and that way we can double ensure. So these are different things that have been put in place, but none of them have perfected the system of people being able to protect themselves.
Now, Ian, I have to ask the question my audience is thinking. This sounds great, but is it real? And is it safe about passwords? Because Handing me control of my own identity also sounds like a lot of responsibility.
Well, using the internet is a lot of responsibility. If you use the internet, there's all sorts of things that it's your responsibility not to uh, partake in and engage with things that would be illegal. For instance, you might be in a place where gambling is illegal. Well, just because you have access to it on the internet, you still are responsible to protect yourself and not go gamble because gambling is illegal. Or, as far as I understand, child uh, exploitation of any kind. When people will talk about, child porn and things of that nature, any sort of child exploitation is illegal, I think, just about anywhere. And so it's your responsibility. If you're going to use the internet, it's your responsibility to not search for those things or not engage with those things if they find you. And so you already have to take responsibility for the actions that you take on the internet. Right now, a lot of people think they have protection because they have, like a incognito browser. Well, we are very close to all of your incognito browsing history and all of the things that you've done online to be exposed for all. Now, fortunately for you and for me, everyone probably gets exposed at the exact same time. So it won't be like just you got busted, everybody else gets to hide. So what you need to understand is that you are responsible. It is your freedom that's so wonderful, but it's your responsibility that also makes it have a serious nature to it. So when you use the internet, social media, any sort of innovation in technology like Web3 and AI, when you use these tools, you are the person that is responsible to follow the laws, protect yourself and the people around you. And this is just part of what you have to do when you're going to play with the internet.
So the future of identity is like less memorizing, less memorizing and more security. And this is the big one, actual ownership and control of who you are online. That's why I say this is genuinely good news. And it's one of the clearest examples of the future being better than the present. And we're moving from a world where you're constantly exposed and burdened, to one where you're protected and in control. So, can you please tell us more about, you know, um, uh, the protecting our passwords? Because most of my audience, who are listening right now, feels like all of what you said or all what you're talking about, and this is still a few years away from their daily life. So what's one small thing they can do today to protect themselves, specifically about this password thing?
Well, whatever you do to protect yourself with passwords today will probably change later. So one thing is you may not want to be overly committed. Whatever you do with passwords, think of it like you're dating the password protection idea. You're not married to it because things will change. I do think that two-factor authentication is a great idea. So do your password thing and then add a two-factor authentication to your cell phone to have a text message sent so you have a way to double verify. Um, or use a Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. That's a great idea. So do that if you're not doing that. I would go through and probably change your passwords every 3 months as a standard. If you want to wait 6 months or a year or more, that's not the end of the world, but I would change your passwords regularly. A lot of people use password apps. So Apple has its own password app integrated. Google Chrome has its own password app integrated. There's like 1Password and LastPass and others where you can put all your passwords in. However, these things have been compromised in the past. So it's not perfect. And even if you use one of these password apps to make your life a bit easier, you still probably should have two-factor authentication. I would not write your passwords down on a piece of paper and hide them under your something. I wouldn't like hide them under your desk or in a thing, even just your kids, nieces, nephews poking around and seeing what auntie, uncle, grandpa, grandma, mommy, daddy have going on and finding that stuff. would be a compromise, let alone if somebody that has nefarious intent were to find it. Obviously, you could use a safe and put things in there, but I like the idea of having two-factor authentication with a Google Authenticator or cell phone number and using a password app and having that two combination there. That's not perfect, but it's probably a pretty good approach for today.
Let's talk about decentralized identity. And this is one I really want you to break down because most of my audience are, from Web 2 and transitioning to Web 3, and most of them don't actually understand. So can you please explain it to my audience about decentralized identity?
Well, a centralized identity is the identity that Google knows about you, right? It's centralized in Google's cloud. They know everything about what you've done on Gmail, on YouTube, on Google Search, on any of your Google apps on your phone, even if it's an Android or something of that nature, or even if you have an iPad or you use Mac or you use one of the other hardware devices that are not made by Amazon. Obviously, Samsung's integrated. When you use these things, when you use Google Apps, it's centralized identity. Google knows all these things about you that you don't even know yourself. There's lots of centralized identities. Apple has a centralized identity on anybody that uses Apple. Meta has a centralized identity on what you do on Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram and Threads and Oculus. So there's all these centralized identities. These are independent, usually multi-trillion-dollar companies that have collected all this data on you, and they have all these different ways to get more data from you directly and indirectly. Okay, that's centralized. So decentralized identity, that's going through the process of Web3 native, owning your data, and so you're now using less centralized or fully decentralized platforms to build out your identity. You're probably in control of this. You can do a hard delete and or remove everything on those decentralized servers potentially, one way or another, or at least remove access to it. And so this is a decentralized approach to identity. And a lot of people have taken this very far, much further than I have, where they go through the whole process of like building their decentralized identity on purpose, with a strategy, with reasons and purpose and methods behind it, in order to make sure that they are in control of their identity digitally.
Okay, so one final question for someone listening and who feels like all of this is feels so dangerous for them in their daily life because of this password. What is that one small thing that they can do better or they can protect themselves better? And not only that, to be more knowledgeable about the passwords.
The thing that you can do better is to ensure that you take personal responsibility. No one is responsible to protect you online. The government's not responsible. Your boss, your spouse, your kids, your parents, your business partner, your clients, and your employees, none of them are responsible to protect you. Only you are responsible. So some of you may have seen Snoop Dogg when Snoop accepted an award and he went up and said, he didn't thank God. He didn't thank the devil. He didn't thank his publicist or his manager or his record label or his mommy. You know who he thanked? He said, I'd like to thank me. I'd like to thank me for the long hours, the late nights, the sacrifices. Now, obviously, it was kind of silly and a little bit of a joke, but it made a point. And the point was, he understood he was responsible for his success with what he had just achieved in the music industry when he received that award. So imagine yourself winning an award of a person that is protected and secure and safe and doing what is necessary to ensure that your money and your data and your privacy are all secure. And then imagine a future where you thank yourself. You thank yourself for going through the process of changing your passwords regularly. And you thank yourself for going through the process of setting up two-factor authentication. And you thank yourself for going through the process of understanding the Web3 innovations and a decentralized identity. And imagine yourself in the future thanking you for doing the hard things today that others won't do to protect your future you of tomorrow. And with that, I will close Riza's incredible podcast once again, and I will say, stay curious, stay grounded, and stay human.
Thank you very much again, and thank you for supporting me every Tuesday. I'll see you again on our next episode here at Web3 and AI Made Simple.